They called her untouchable. Born of royal blood but wounded beyond alien science, the little princess limped through a palace of perfection until the janitor from Earth, a man with grease under his nails and grief in his eyes, knelt before her. No technology, no serum, no sacred light had eased her pain. But one simple gesture from a stranger shattered everything the royal court thought they knew about healing. Before we dive in, let us know where you're watching from, and if stories like this move you, hit that subscribe button, because tomorrow's tale, even more unbelievable than this one. The Hall of Radiance shimmered with impossible beauty, walls laced with living crystal, floors woven from strands of starlight itself. Healing chants echoed through the domes like lullabies carved from mathematics, composed by minds older than gravity. It was a place where galaxies sent their broken to be mended. And yet, in the center of that radiant perfection, a small girl limped quietly across the floor, her silver footfalls uneven, every third step catching on a pain no one could locate. Princess Alara, heir to the throne of Varelia, was born luminous. Her skin, a lilac hue tinged with bioluminescent veins, glowed softly in the dark. Her hair cascaded like spun ice, woven with particles that reacted to emotion. When she was happy, it glittered gold. But happiness had been rare these past cycles. The limp began when she was 3. No trauma, no infection, no reason. Just a stumble one morning, followed by a limp that grew more pronounced with each passing year. Doctors from a dozen systems had examined her. Cybernetic surgeons, memory splicing healers, quantum chiropractors. Nothing changed. The limp remained, a puzzle that defied logic and burned at her mother's heart. Queen Aelira, ruler of 5 spiral arms, had once broken moons for less than this. Now she stood powerless before the ache in her daughter's knee. We could rebuild the leg, one advisor had whispered, hopeful. Clone a new one, regenerate the nerve map. But Aelira had shaken her head. She is not to be carved. She is not to be broken to fit their expectations. We heal, or we learn to carry. And so the limp remained, a whisper of something missing that no scan could detect. In the lower halls of the palace, where no light reached without permission, another figure moved. Elias Ward, Earthborn janitor, 46 cycles old, former mechanic, former husband. A man made of routines and silences. He mopped the same corridor every day beneath the Queen's Tower, his presence more tolerated than noticed. His hands bore the marks of old burns and broken bolts, his eyes the hollow tiredness of someone who once had something to lose. The court saw him as little more than a maintenance drone in denim and steel-toed boots, but Princess Alara did not see like the court. She noticed the man who bowed slightly when she passed, who never stared, never recoiled, never tried to fix her, just kept mopping. One morning, she followed him, quietly, limping gently on the outer edge of her foot. She watched as he polished the floor, not with machines, but with care, as if the stone mattered. That was the moment the stars began to shift. Not with thunder, not with decree, just a child's silent decision to walk beside a man no one saw. And far above, the Queen, unaware, watched her daughter on the security feed, eyes narrowing. Because for the first time in years, Alara's hair shimmered faintly gold. Elias Ward did not walk like someone who belonged in a palace. His steps were quiet, sure, built for factories and hollow stations where you learn to move between danger and neglect. His boots clicked against the crystalline floors of Varelia's lower sanctum without echo, out of respect, not fear. The mop he carried was old, the handle reinforced with cloth and wire. Most thought it primitive. To Elias, it was the only thing in the galaxy that didn't ask anything of him. He never looked up, not when alien nobles passed him with curled lips and muttered jokes, not when the light from the healing orbs overhead shimmered in blinding waves. Not even when the princess walked by, trailing the scent of crownflower and ozone. He kept his gaze low and his thoughts lower. You don't get hurt if you don't reach. Every day, he mopped the same wing. Sector C9, meditation corridor, eastern stairs. His shift started at dawn and ended before the royal evening procession. That was the rule. He liked rules. Rules made pain quieter. But that morning, something was different. She was there before he was, sitting on the lowest stair with her chin resting on one tiny knee. The child princess, luminous in her quiet, her silver-blue dress pooling like water around her legs. Her head tilted when he entered. "You're late," she said. Elias stopped mid-stride. Not because the words were sharp, they weren't, but because no one here ever spoke to him. Not really. They gave orders, instructions, clearances. Not words like that. Human words. Words a daughter might use while waiting for her father to return with cocoa on a cold earth morning. He cleared his throat. "I'm early." She smiled, just a little. "Then I'm earlier." He said nothing more, just nodded once and began his work. The mop glided in smooth arcs, tracing patterns only he saw, patterns that made sense of chaos. His motions were slow, respectful, like someone cleaning the place where memories sleep. "You clean quietly," she said after a while. Elias shrugged. "Floors don't like to be startled." A beat of silence. "My mother says it's a nervous defect," the girl murmured, looking down at her leg. "The limp. But it doesn't feel nervous. It just feels sad." That made him pause, just for a moment. He glanced at her, not directly, just enough to catch the shimmer in her hair. She meant it. Every word. "What's your name?" she asked. "Elias." She nodded solemnly. "Mine's Alara, but they call me Princess." He gave her a tired smile. "Nice to meet you, Princess." She reached into her pocket, pulled out a small crystal bead, and set it on the clean floor. "If I leave this here, will you clean around it?" "No," he said gently. "I'll clean through it, but I'll leave the shine behind." Her smile widened. "Just a little." Upstairs, the queen watched again, and for the second time that week, her daughter's hair flickered gold. The corridor was unusually still that morning. No nobles rushing to prayer chambers, no echo of gliding sentinel droids. Just a human man and a princess child in the middle of the East Wing, sharing silence like it was a secret worth keeping. Elias had just begun rinsing the corner tiles near the prayer alcove. Alara trailed behind him as she often did now, careful not to touch anything, her bare feet whispering against the polished floor. She had become his shadow, though a brighter, stranger one. He never encouraged it, but he didn't stop her either. Some shadows are sacred. She stepped where he stepped, mimicked how he twisted the mop, even hummed under her breath when he cleaned, as if the rhythm of labor held a lullaby only she could hear. And for a few minutes, it almost felt like something close to ordinary, to safe. But then came the slip. It was small, a patch of water left behind on a freshly rinsed tile. Elias had meant to dry it, but Alara, curious and quick, had moved faster than he expected. Her foot landed wrong, the surface slick. Her knee gave out. The limp caught mid-stride. She gasped, and she fell. It should have been nothing. A small child's stumble. But in the palace of Virelia, where every motion was measured and every pain documented, it was a crack in the porcelain of the divine. Her elbow hit the floor. Her crownlet rolled to the edge of the stair, and from her lips came a single, fragile cry. "Ah, it hurts." Elias moved before the words finished leaving her mouth. Instinct, pure and ancient, surged through his limbs. The mop hit the floor. He was beside her in seconds, crouched low, hands open but gentle. "You okay?" he asked, voice low, steady. She blinked, eyes wide, not with fear, but surprise. "It's my knee." He glanced at it. No bruising, no blood, just the familiar tension of a child expecting scolding or scanners. He didn't do either. He knelt beside her, resting one hand lightly near her shin. "May I?" he asked. She nodded. He examined her knee like a craftsman inspecting a loose joint in a beloved machine. Not poking, not prodding, just present. He didn't ask for nanoscans or call a medic. He didn't flinch at her alien skin or the bioluminescent glow pulsing beneath it. Instead, he leaned in slowly and whispered, like it was a spell, "Looks like a proper boo-boo." She stared at him. What?" He smiled gently, eyes softening for the first time in months. "When my daughter fell," he said, "she'd call it that. A boo-boo, small hurt, big drama." Alara tilted her head. "What did you do when she said that?" Elias looked down at her knee and kissed it, just once, lightly. A simple kiss. No magic, no nanotech, no quantum realignment, just breath and skin and memory. Alara blinked, and when she stood, she didn't limp. The corridor didn't notice. The walls didn't gasp. The polished crystal didn't shatter under the weight of the moment. But something shifted subtle and vast, like a fault line twitching beneath a quiet sea. Alara stood, her small feet planted evenly, weight distributed without hesitation. No tilt, no stagger. Her eyes, wide and shimmering, drifted down to her knee, then back up to Elias. She lifted her foot and took a step forward, smooth, whole. Her body remembered how to move without pain. "I don't," she started, her voice feather light. "It doesn't." She lifted her leg again, slowly, cautiously, like a foal testing strength. And again, no catch, no wince, just fluid motion. Her lips parted, not in speech, but wonder. Then she looked at him and whispered, "It doesn't hurt." Elias remained kneeling. He didn't speak. He couldn't. His breath caught somewhere between disbelief and something older. He had kissed his daughter's boo-boos 1,000 times before. None of them had ever truly healed anything, except maybe fear. But here now, in this place of alien glory and impossible science, his smallest gesture had done what entire medical fleets couldn't. Alara reached down and touched her own knee with trembling fingers. "It hurts here," she repeated softly, as if remembering. Then she added, "But it doesn't anymore." Footsteps echoed behind them, a cascade of clipped heels and swirling robes. The Queen's attendants, drawn by the child's cry, now rushed into view, followed closely by the Queen herself. Regal and radiant, Ailira was a storm held in flesh. She moved with the practiced grace of someone used to controlling not just rooms, but galaxies. She froze when she saw them. The janitor, kneeling, her daughter, standing balanced, whole, glowing with something no medical chart had ever recorded. "What happened?" Ailira's voice was low, dangerously calm. Alara turned to her. "I slipped." Ailira stepped forward. "Where is the injury?" "Call the chamber healer." "No," the girl interrupted. "He fixed it." The Queen's eyes narrowed. "Who?" She pointed. "Him." All heads turned to Elias. For a moment, time contracted. The attendants blinked, like they had only now noticed him for the first time, not as a fixture, not as a shadow, but as a man. A man who had dared touch royalty. "He kissed my boo-boo," Alara said plainly, like he did for his daughter. The words landed like thunder. "Kissed?" one of the attendants echoed, scandalized. "Healed," another whispered. Queen Ailira's gaze burned into Elias with the force of a dying star. "You touched her?" "I did," Elias said, rising slowly. "She fell. No one is to touch the heiress," one of the nobles snapped. "It violates 16 sectors of protocol." But Alara stepped in front of Elias. "He didn't hurt me. He helped me." The Queen looked at her daughter's leg, then back at Elias. Her voice, when it came, was cold and sharp. "Bring him to the Hall of Judgments." And yet, even as she spoke, her eyes flicked once, briefly, to her daughter's now perfect stride, and widened. They marched him through the palace like he was a virus suddenly discovered in the ventilation. 2 armored guards flanked him, obsidian-plated and silent, their faces hidden beneath ceremonial helms, shaped like predator skulls. Elias did not resist. He didn't ask questions. He walked like he always did, shoulders quiet, boots careful, breath tucked low in his chest. Only now, the floor he had cleaned every morning for 3 years felt less like stone and more like accusation. Behind them, Alara trailed in a flurry of defiance, her steps sharp and even. There was no limp, no hesitation. Each stride was a contradiction the court couldn't ignore. She moved like royalty now, and no one knew what to do with that. The Hall of Judgments opened before them with a hiss of pressure and light. Tall as mountains, cold as justice, banners of bioluminescent silk hung from pillars of compressed starbone. The tribunal dais rose at the end, flanked by senators, adjudicators, and observers from a dozen alien worlds. Queen Ailira sat in the center, high upon her throne of crystal pulse glass, her expression unreadable. Elias was brought forward, the guards stopping just shy of forcing him to kneel. He remained standing, gaze fixed on nothing in particular. Alara tried to follow, but an attendant caught her gently by the shoulder. Not yet, Your Highness. She frowned but did not argue. State your name and designation, intoned the Prime Adjudicator, a being with 4 faces and no eyes. Elias Ward. Janitor, he replied. A whisper rolled through the chamber like wind through dry reeds. Janitor, a word not often spoken here, not with reverence, not with concern. Queen Aelira's voice rang out, each syllable measured like an imperial edict. This man stands accused of unauthorized contact with royal flesh, disruption of protocol, and possible biological interference. How do you plead? Aelius looked up at her for the first time. Her eyes were sharp, but not cruel. Behind the protocol, something flickered, something uncertain. I didn't touch her to harm her, Elias said. She fell. She was scared. I did what any father would do. And what precisely did you do? Another voice demanded, one of the ministers, scales shimmering with offense. I kissed her knee, Elias said. The room hissed again. Outrage, confusion, disbelief. Aelira lifted one hand and the murmurs stopped instantly. Alara broke free from the attendants and marched forward. She stood beside Elias, defiant as only a child could be. I asked him to help. It hurt, she said. It doesn't anymore. Because of a kiss? A counselor scoffed. It worked, Alara snapped. None of you made it stop hurting. He did. The silence that followed was deeper than judgment. It was history holding its breath. Queen Aelira studied Elias for a long time. Her fingers traced the edge of her throne, slow, thoughtful. A kiss, she murmured almost to herself. An earth custom. Elias nodded once. Sometimes, he said, a small kindness reaches farther than all the stars. And though the court bristled, Aelira said nothing, but she did not look away. For a queen who had not blinked during planetary bombardments, who had watched cities dissolve beneath antimatter fire and negotiated peace with creatures born inside black holes, Queen Aelira gasped. Soft, barely audible, but real. It happened the moment Alara stepped forward, unprompted, and took Elias's hand. The court froze. Her small fingers wrapped around his scarred ones, unafraid, unwavering. Her bioluminescent skin glowed brighter where it touched his. The contrast was jarring, royal purity beside a man dusted in flaw grit and ancient sadness. And yet, she held on. No limp, no stagger, no flicker of pain. Each movement was balanced, whole. Your Majesty, the Prime Adjudicator began, tone hushed and tight. The child appears. Altered. No, Alara corrected, lifting her chin. I'm the same, just not hurting. Another ripple of gasps. This time not of scandal but realization. This wasn't a trick, not a bribe, not a mechanical leg or a cloaked injection. It was something they couldn't replicate, because it wasn't a product. It was a connection. Aelira leaned forward in her throne, gaze locked on her daughter's knee. Her own eyes shimmered with faint violet light, a genetic trait of her lineage. That light flickered now, uneven, emotional. The hall had never seen her falter. You swear he did nothing else? She asked, voice quieter now, directed only at Alara. He just cared, Alara said, and kissed it. Like it mattered. Like I mattered, even though I'd fallen. Aelira exhaled slowly, as if the weight of that sentence struck somewhere below her crown and deep into the bones of her memory. She stood, descending a single step from her throne. The court stirred in alarm. She never stood during judgment. Tradition dictated she remain above all. She ignored them. Approaching slowly, she came to stand before Elias and her daughter. Her gaze imperial, sharp, tempered by years of command, locked with his. For the first time, Elias met her eyes without flinching. What are you? She asked, not cruelly but curiously. He took a long breath. I'm just a father. No, she said. You're something else. Something we forgot. Silence again. This one deeper. Then came the memory. Aelira's voice softened, and with it, the whole room tilted towards something more human. When I was young, she murmured, I fell in the Garden of Bells. My mother scooped me into her arms. There was no healer nearby. She kissed my ankle where it bled. Her eyes flicked down to Alara's knee. I had forgotten that until now. A memory buried beneath protocol. Dislodged by a janitor. Alira turned toward the court, her voice returning to its full power. "Release him." The room erupted in noise, half outrage, half awe. "But he broke protocol," a senator cried. "Then the protocol is broken," Alira answered. She turned to Elias again. "Do not mistake this for forgiveness," she said. "It is recognition." And for the briefest moment, before turning away, the queen glanced at her daughter's even stride and gasped again, this time inwardly, for what that simple step truly meant. The chamber emptied slowly, as if afraid to move too quickly and shatter whatever ancient thing had just stirred back to life. The nobles filed out in murmurs and side glances, robes swishing like uneasy waves. The adjudicators lingered longest, faces unreadable, their verdicts suspended in silence. Only 3 remained once the hall dimmed: Elias, Alara, and the queen. She stood between them, spine rigid, arms crossed as if bracing herself against a truth too old for science. "What did you do?" she asked, not angrily, but carefully. Her tone was that of a ruler interrogating a ghost. Elias rubbed the back of his neck. "I don't know how to explain it. I just did what I'd always done. For your daughter," Alira said. He nodded. "When she was small and scraped her knee on the ship ladders, I'd kiss it. Not because it healed the skin, but because it told her she was seen." Alara looked up at him. "That's what it felt like." The queen inhaled slowly. No one has been able to ease her limp in 9 years. We've opened her marrow, mapped her DNA, folded time over her bones. But you," she stopped, searching his face, "you simply cared." He didn't answer right away. Instead, he looked past her to the throne. Its gleaming crystal reflected distorted silhouettes of everyone it ever judged. "Sometimes," he said softly, "the body doesn't trust a fix until the soul is heard." Alira's jaw flexed. "That sounds like folklore, maybe." But it worked. She paced a few slow steps, her robes trailing like low thunder. "You're not a healer, you're not a medic, you have no clearance, and yet my daughter is walking like the wound never existed." Her eyes narrowed. "What are you hiding?" Elias met her gaze with something neither defiant nor submissive, just tired honesty. "I'm hiding grief, mostly. A lot of silence. A daughter buried under red dirt on a moon whose name I try not to say." Alara reached for his hand again. The queen's eyes softened, not out of pity, but recognition. "Grief. A mother knows the shape of it, even when it wears someone else's skin." "You didn't ask for reward," she said, "or favor. I didn't do it for either." "Then why?" Elias looked at the girl beside him. "Because no one else did." Alira's voice wavered, almost imperceptibly. "You've placed me in a difficult position, Elias Ward. This is a society built on protocol." He shrugged. "Then maybe it's time someone cleaned under it." Silence. Then, as if yielding to a weight too old to carry alone, the queen sat on the edge of her own throne, shoulders relaxing just slightly. "She says it doesn't hurt anymore," Alira whispered. "It doesn't," Alara confirmed. "Not on the inside either." Elias placed his mop against the wall, straightened it, the way he always did, and the queen stared at him like he was a man made of myth and memory. Elias didn't speak of her often, not even to himself. Her name was June. She'd been born beneath the rust-colored sky of Eltros 9, in a mining colony built between fault lines. Her first breath had tasted of dust and oil, her first lullaby the low thrum of power conduits. Elias had cradled her with hands still trembling from the tools he'd just put down, whispering promises he didn't know how to keep. She'd grown up quick. Bright eyes, hair like the soil after rain. She walked before she was ready, climbed before she should have, and she fell many times. Skinned knees, cracked lips. One time, a bruised rib from trying to leap between the cargo crates like her favorite show's heroine. She'd cried once, then insisted she was fine, but every time she hurt, Elias had done the same thing. He kissed it, lightly, without ceremony. "It won't fix it," she once told him with a scrunched-up face. "No," he'd said, "but it'll remind you that someone sees it, that someone thinks it matters." And somehow, it always helped, until the fall that didn't heal. The mining bridge had collapsed. A structural flaw, they said. Her little body had been pulled from beneath metal and silence. He remembered the sound of nothing, no breath, no cry, just the thud of the world refusing to give her back. They offered him compensation, a plaque, a transfer. He took none of it. Instead, he signed the first contract that asked nothing of him but quiet work. He became a janitor on Varelia, a planet that promised anonymity, order, and no reminders of what he'd lost, until a limping princess followed him through polished halls, until her eyes reminded him of June's, tilted slightly upward with curiosity, hungry for kindness in a world too distant and cold. Now, standing in the Queen's chamber, with Alara's hand still loosely in his, Elias felt the old pain uncoil. Not gone, but different. Not softened, but shared. The Queen watched him carefully. "Your daughter, is she why you kissed mine?" "I didn't think about it," he said. "It just happened, like muscle memory. Grief leaves echoes," she said quietly. "I know." There was silence between them. Not awkward, not royal, just human. Alara looked between the two of them. "What was her name?" Elias's voice was barely more than breath. "June." Alara nodded solemnly. "Then I'll remember her. Every time I walk without pain." He blinked hard. Once, said nothing. And Queen Aelira, ruler of 5 spiral arms, heir to the singing crown, commander of fleets, did something no one in the room had seen her do before. She stepped down from her dais. She placed a hand on Elias's shoulder, and she bowed her head not as monarch to servant, but as mother to father. From the shadow of loss, something strange and sacred rose. Not forgiveness, recognition. Despite the Queen's gesture, the court would not let it go. Protocol, after all, is stubborn. It survives even the truth. By the next cycle, an emergency tribunal had been convened. Not to punish the Queen, no one dared, but to investigate the incident in formal terms. The Royal Medical Order declared the act an unsanctioned therapeutic contact. The Ethics Board of Interworld Governance labeled it a precedent risk. Even the Varelian Chamber of Customary Conduct issued a quiet rebuke, signed in gold and disapproval. They called it the Trial of Touch. The title itself felt absurd, but Elias stood at its center nonetheless, summoned not as janitor, not as grieving father, but as anomaly. The trial was held in the Spiral Gallery, a room of echo and spectacle. Above the speaking floor, verdict glyphs hovered like specters. Delegates gathered in tears, alien forms cloaked in ceremonial weight. Some looked curious, others offended, many simply bored, waiting for spectacle. Alara sat behind her mother, her legs swinging over the edge of the royal seat, gaze locked on Elias. She didn't look scared, she looked determined. Queen Aelira did not speak. She had recused herself from judgment, in an effort perhaps futile to avoid swaying the outcome. Instead, the prosecution spoke. The human janitor, Elias Ward, performed a physical act of unknown consequence upon the heir, said the representative from the Clinical Oversight Corps. It resulted in a previously unachievable recovery. That alone demands explanation. Elias stood in the circle of light, arms loose at his sides. He said nothing. A new voice echoed, taller, sharper, a historian from the Vox archives. Throughout history, we've seen such anomalies attributed to forgotten rites, placebo mechanics, even quantum entanglement across emotional bonds. Still, the method is crude, unvetted, dangerous. Dangerous? Elias asked, finally speaking. His voice didn't rise. It sank. To care. A murmur stirred the room. "You equate care with healing," said a tall alien with translucent skin. "That is unscientific." Elias turned toward him. "Then maybe science forgot something." The silence after was different, not offended, curious. A skeptical senator leaned forward, eye ridges tightening. "Do you claim to have powers, human?" "No," Elias replied. "I claim I kneeled beside a hurting child and didn't treat her like a diagnosis." Somewhere in the crowd, a junior delegate whispered, "Like a father." The tribunal moderator, unnerved, redirected. "So your action was instinctual, not cultural." "It was love," Elias said simply. Even the tribunal glyphs flickered. Then Alara stood. She had not been invited to testify, but she moved with royal steadiness and walked to the platform without limping. She faced the crowd, spine straight. "He didn't fix my leg," she said. "He told it I mattered." The room stilled. No one interrupted. Everyone tried to erase my limp like it was broken code. He saw it, and loved me anyway. She turned to Elias, just like my father would have, and in the spiral gallery, where words often outweighed meaning, silence became the most powerful truth. The spiral gallery held its breath. For a society sculpted from rules and order, silence was a dangerous sound. It meant something sacred had slipped through the cracks of structure, something not defined, not archived, not weighed. And when Princess Alara finished speaking, that silence wrapped the tribunal like a second atmosphere. The moderator, flustered, cleared her throat. "Your Majesty, do you wish to?" I recused myself. Queen Alira interrupted, her voice crisp but distant. "And I will honor that decision." Low, but her gaze never left Elias. He stood there like a man who'd just unearthed his own heart and placed it gently at the feet of those who'd forgotten what hearts were for. No armor, no rebuttals, only stillness and love. A senator from the Dorian Accord finally rose. His face was etched with age, his eyes sunken and tired. "We have not made space for this," he said, not to the court but to the ceiling, as if seeking counsel from higher places. "We have protocols for political offense, for interspecies romance, for accidental spiritual trespass, but not for this." "What is this exactly?" asked another, impatient. The old senator looked at Elias. "A human reminding us that kindness does not require clearance." That silenced even the impatient. The tribunal glyphs above began to rotate slowly, uncertain. They were programmed to shift in tandem with the logic of the trial. Yet this defied programming. No regulation could quantify a kiss meant only to say you are loved even in pain. Alira remained still, her daughter at her side. The court was coming apart not through rebellion or violence but through the quiet undoing of certainty. Then, one by one, others began to speak. A Polaran matriarch admitted that no healing drone had ever soothed her child's night terrors, but the sound of her own voice humming a forgotten lullaby had. A Vyari delegate confessed that his sister, terminal for years, had found more comfort in a letter from a friend than in the endless procedures meant to prolong her. One memory after another. Not miracles, moments, and in each, the same thing. Presence. A hand held, a word spoken, a ritual made not of power, but of presence. Someone muttered, "What is protocol compared to remembrance?" It cracked open the room. The tribunal glyphs stuttered, froze, then slowly dimmed, extinguishing themselves. It was not rebellion. It was surrender. To something older than order. Queen Alira stood. "I will rewrite the protocol myself," she said, her voice not thundering but clear. "Let this moment mark its rebirth." A murmur of awe swept the chamber. She turned to Elias. "We forgot," she said, "that not all things holy wear a crown." He nodded once. No pride, just peace. As they turned to leave, Alara at his side, the queen placed a single hand on his shoulder. "No matter what you are," she whispered, "you reminded us of what we were." And from that moment forward, in chambers where law had reigned alone, warmth returned, not by decree, but by touch. Even after the tribunal dismissed the charges, even after the protocols were revised to allow for what they now called intent-based care exceptions, Elias remained quiet. He returned to the corridor, the same one he always cleaned. He still arrived before first light, still filled his bucket with water warmed by recycled starlight, still traced arcs on the marble floor like he was whispering a lullaby in a forgotten language. The only difference was that now, when people passed, they looked at him, and when they looked, they didn't see a janitor. They saw the man who had healed the princess with a kiss. But Elias knew better. He hadn't healed her leg. That had never been the true wound. He'd seen it in her eyes before the fall, before the tribunal, in the way she sat at the edge of the corridor steps, in how she shadowed him like someone trying to stay near a memory they couldn't name. The wound had been silence, isolation, the ache of being touched by machines but never held by someone who understood pain as more than data. It was the same wound he carried. His limp had been invisible too. His came from the absence of June's voice echoing down empty ship corridors. from the sound of a laugh that had vanished from the world but never from his ears. Every mop stroke was an act of remembering, not repairing, not erasing. Remembering meant you still believed in what was lost. Alara found him that morning, barefoot, quiet, eyes sleepy, but steady. She sat beside his bucket and watched. "You still clean," she said. He nodded. Places forget themselves if no one helps them remember. She thought about that, then reached for his rag. "Can I help?" He hesitated. "You don't have to." "I know," she said, "but I want to." So he let her. Together, they polished the floor beneath the eastern arch, where light spilled in like gold poured from memory. She mimicked his strokes, her little hands slow and deliberate. She wasn't just playing, she was honoring. "You know," she said after a while, "I used to dream about running. And now, I dream about walking next to people who don't leave." He looked at her, his throat suddenly tight. "I think that's what hurts more," she added. "Not the leg, the being alone." Elias set his mop aside. "Yeah," he said. "That's the wound no one scans for, but it's real," she whispered. He nodded. They cleaned in silence for a while longer. And when they finished, the floor shone not just with clarity, but with care, like grief had been scrubbed until only grace remained. That afternoon, the Queen found them both sitting on the steps, dusty, tired, smiling. She didn't say a word. She just sat beside them. And for the first time in decades, she didn't feel like a monarch holding a galaxy together. She felt like a mother remembering how to let go of the weight and hold a hand instead. The royal chambers had grown quieter since the trial, less ceremonial, less rehearsed. The air itself felt softer, as if something rigid had exhaled. And in that silence, Queen Ailira did something she hadn't done in decades. She opened the royal memory vault. It wasn't a room so much as a resonance field, a place where echoes of the past waited, undisturbed, encoded in flickers of light and sound. She stepped inside barefoot, crown left behind, robes traded for silence. At the chamber's center hovered a crystal ark, ancient, elegant. It shimmered faintly, awaiting command. She pressed her palm to the ark. It pulsed once, then bloomed with memory. Images bloomed, a child running through a garden of silver leaf trees, a woman with dark human eyes chasing her, laughing, her voice deep, warm, utterly unroyal. The Queen's mother, half Varelian, half Terran, a bridge between worlds that had never quite learned to hold each other gently. And then the memory she sought. She was 5 cycles old. She had tripped over a root in the garden, her knee scraped open, blood glowing faintly violet in the grass. She remembered the panic, the fear, the way the royal guards rushed forward, offering scans, salves, nanite patches. But her mother had waved them back. Then came the moment. Her mother knelt. Not like a queen, not like a healer, but like a mother. She kissed the bleeding knee, a simple act. And the pain dissolved, not because the wound was gone, but because it had been seen, cradled, named. Ailira stood in the memory chamber now, breath trembling. How had she forgotten? When had she traded touch for protocol? She closed the vault gently, the memory still warm in her chest. Elsewhere in the palace, Alara painted symbols in chalk across the eastern courtyard, marks she'd learned from Elias, circles, stars, and little crooked hearts. She taught them to 2 other children, a Veari boy and a girl from the dust mining moons. They giggled when she told the story. "He kissed my knee," she said, "and it stopped hurting." "Just like that?" the boy asked. "Not just like that," she said. "He meant it." Elias watched from the corridor. He didn't interrupt, just leaned on his mop like a scepter no one had noticed, letting them draw truth in chalk and sunlight. Later that evening, as the sky turned a soft green with dusk light, the Queen found him alone in the corridor, setting his tools back in their place. She held out a folded piece of cloth. It was old, faded, frayed at the corners. He took it gently. "I found it in the archives," she said. "It was my mother's." He opened it. In the center was a stitched circle, 3 small stars embroidered in thread that shimmered faintly. "A mother's mark," she explained. "We used to kiss it and say, 'Here you are seen.'" Elias folded it slowly. "I remember now." And the Queen smiled, not as sovereign, but as daughter, as mother. as someone who finally understood that not all wounds bled, but all wounds remembered. The sunrise over Varelia spilled like melted gold across the marble terraces, touching every dome, every pillar, every flag that no longer fluttered out of pride but purpose. In the distance you could hear laughter, not formal court chuckles but children. Real laughter, free. The Hall of Reflection, once reserved only for planetary dignitaries and royal declarations, now hosted something no one had seen before. A chair had been placed at the center of the hall, simple, wooden, sanded smooth. Elias sat in it, not as a throne, as a seat of honor. Beside him stood Alara, in soft ceremonial dress, barefoot as always, her hair braided not in courtly patterns, but the loose, looping twist she'd asked Elias to teach her, the one his daughter used to wear. Delegates lined the outer wall, not in resistance, but reverence. He was not being crowned, not officially, but he was being remembered. Queen Alira stepped forward, holding something wrapped in cloth. The same cloth she'd retrieved from her mother's vault. She unwrapped it gently and revealed a clasp, not a crown. A janitor's badge, circular, worn, polished by years of use. But at its center, newly engraved, was the sigil of the royal house. A star, a knee, a hand. She knelt and pinned it to his chest. The chamber exhaled. "You reminded us," she said, voice steady but thick, "that care is not weakness, that touch is not trespass, that healing does not belong only to those with titles, but to those with presence." He looked down at the badge. "I didn't mean to cause a revolution," he murmured. "You didn't," she replied. "You reminded us of one we abandoned." From behind her, Lear, the young historian from the Vayari wing, stepped forward, clutching a datapad. "We've begun rewriting the educational scrolls," he said. "The first principle now includes a note on emotional resonance, and the kiss as a valid gesture of healing." Elias snorted. "You're making paperwork out of fatherhood?" Lear grinned. "It's the only way they'll accept it." Later that day, Elias returned to his corridor. He mopped, as always. But this time, he wasn't alone. Children joined him, each with a cloth. Some cleaned poorly, some asked questions, some just walked beside him in silence. They weren't being taught how to clean, they were learning how to care. Alara held his hand as he finished the last section of floor, a perfect sheen reflecting her small smile. "Do I call you Master Janitor now?" she teased. He chuckled. "You can call me Elias. I think I like Dad better," she said. His hand tightened gently in hers. "Yeah," he whispered. "Me too." At the entrance to the hall, Queen Alira stood watching, her crown tucked beneath her arm, not abandoned, just resting. And as Elias placed his mop back on its hook and turned to leave, the delegates bowed not to his badge, but to the quiet legacy he carried. Not all crowns glitter. Some are shaped like a kiss on a scraped knee, and worn by those who remember how to kneel.